Shalom, everyone. Welcome back. We have 1 week till Purim. Purim is a week from today, Thursday, February the 25th. I hope everyone is making arrangements for where they're going to be. Keep in mind, we need to hear the Megillah both at night, Thursday night, and on Friday, Erev Shabbos, which presents its own problems this year. Certainly Thursday is Titus Esther, the fast of Esther, and it concludes with the reading of the Megillah. Here in Chabad University City, we're going to be reading the Megillah many, many times, at 6:30 and at 8:30 and in the morning the next day as well, several times. And in your own community, wherever you are, you should also arrange to hear the Megillah both at night and by day, and also, of course, to arrange for Mishloach Manot, gifts of food, at least 2 different kinds to at least one person during the daytime. That's on Friday. It could be a hamantashen and a fruit, or a bottle of beer and a cookie, 2 different kinds to at least one person on Friday, as well as increasing charity, which is called Matanos Levionim, which is also a big mitzvah in Purim. Whoever extends their hand, we're to give to them. Even if they don't extend their hand, we should make sure we designate money for tzedakah, extra tzedakah during that day. There is the mitzvah of having a Purim meal, which is on Friday. It should be done in the morning this year because of Erev Shabbos. You shouldn't eat a meal later on the day because it will ruin your appetite for Shabbos. So we see that how Shabbos is so important that even the meal of Purim should be done in the morning, not in the afternoon or evening as we usually do it. We say the Al Hanisim both in the benching, Birchat Hamazon, grace after meals, and also in the Shemona Esrei as well. So it's an auspicious day. This year we're being more careful. Most communities are toning down their Purim. No Purim parties. There are very few of them. Keeping your distance, keeping masks on, and all of the whole thing to be cautious. Keep in mind that it was really last year, Purim, that this whole thing got started. Many people believe that it was because of the festivities of Purim, everyone coming together, that it caused the virus to spread so much. So let's be careful this year. I know many people are getting their vaccines, and God willing, God willing, by next Purim, certainly things will be back to normal, if not earlier. So, let's talk a little bit about this idea. There is such a thing as auspicious times and inauspicious times. In Hebrew, we call it Eit Ratzon, a time that's auspicious. They say that when President Reagan was the president of the United States, his wife Nancy wouldn't let him go anywhere unless she consulted with her astrologers first. We don't believe in that kind of astrology. We have our own astrology we believe in. But Nancy was very careful about that. And if her astrologer said it's not an auspicious time for the president to fly, she strongly discouraged him from doing that. And we know in the world in general there's such a thing as auspicious times, inauspicious times. Certainly not to go under a ladder or cross paths with a black cat or Friday the 13th, things like that. Well, these things for us are not really that important. In fact, actually the number 13 in Judaism is auspicious. 13 attributes of faith, 13 years for a bar mitzvah boy, the Yud Gimel Ikarim of the Rambam, the 13 principles of the Rambam, the 13 attributes of God, so Midos HaRachmim. But we have our own auspicious times and inauspicious times. For example, the month of Av is, by and large, at least the beginning of the month of Av, inauspicious. Certainly from the 9 days before Tisha B'Av, inauspicious, because of the destruction of the temple took place around that time. So you generally lay low during those times. Certainly Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, is extremely inauspicious. The Code of Jewish Law says that if a Jew has a dispute, a court hearing with a non-Jew, don't do it during Tisha B'Av. Certainly not. Bad luck for Jews. Don't travel very much during the 9 days. Don't go on boat rides and things like that. Inauspicious, not a good idea. The beginning of a month, or the end of a month rather, of a Hebrew month, is also generally inauspicious. Why? Because the Jewish people are compared to the moon, and the second half of the month, the moon is on the decline. So it's not considered so auspicious for Jews. The only exception to that rule is, of course, Hanukkah, which is the end of the month, 25th of Kislev, and also the end, actually, remarkably, of the month of Av, where the Tu B'Av takes place, is very auspicious, the 15th of Av, when Shidduchim were made. People got married during that time, so that was auspicious. Interestingly, the beginning of the month of Av, very inauspicious. The end of the month of Av, very auspicious, unlike most other months. What are some other inauspicious times? When tragedies befell Jews, we commemorate them as inauspicious time. All of the fast days that commemorate the destruction of the temple, the 17th of Tammuz, the 10th of Teves, etc. Even the Tzom Gedalia, the fast of Gedalia, inauspicious times. We generally don't get married. We don't have weddings during that time. The end of the month, we generally don't get married during that time. Inauspicious. At the same time, we have auspicious times. For example, as I mentioned, the beginning of a month, when the moon is on the incline, it's getting larger. Good luck for Jews. The month of Tishrei is an auspicious time because so many of the holidays take place during that time. The month of Nisan, very auspicious. Pesach takes place. Whenever a holiday comes on a month, it's generally considered very auspicious. A birthday is an auspicious time. Hey, it's the time that you came into the world. And therefore, the Rabbi encouraged, actually, people to celebrate birthdays by not just by lighting candles and making a wish, not that kind of celebration, but making hachlatas, making positive resolutions for the future, gathering your friends together, make a farbrengen, tell words of Torah on that day, because again, a birthday is an very auspicious time. It's when you came into the world. Many people believe that a yortzeit, even though a yortzeit is the anniversary of the passing of someone, even though it's a very sad time because we lost someone, on the other hand, for many people, it's considered auspicious. Why would a yortzeit be an auspicious time? Because the soul of that person is ascending higher and higher in heaven on that day. It's called an aliyat haneshama. The soul is going on high, and therefore Hasidim and Sfardim celebrate a yortzeit. We don't mourn. Some people, Lithuanian Jews, fast on a yortzeit. We don't do that. We celebrate. We bring a bottle of schnapps and some cake, or make a breakfast in shul, and we make l'chaims. So these, because it's considered, even though it's sad, but it's considered an auspicious time. The soul of our loved one is rising higher in heaven. So these are different times for us, which are auspicious or inauspicious. They say that if you step on your clothing, you can lose it's kosher l'shecha, it is fitting for you to forget your learning. You can forget your learning. If you sleep in your clothes, for example, it's custom for Jews not to sleep in your clothes because it's kosher l'shecha. It's auspicious for you to forget your learning of Torah. So there are times that are auspicious and inauspicious. Now, why am I mentioning that at this time? The answer is because Purim is coming about. And the holiday of Purim came about because of an auspicious and an inauspicious time or occurrence. Haman wanted to destroy the Jews. And he wanted to choose a day that would be auspicious for the Jews to be inauspicious, for the Jews to suffer. So he looked around and he saw that the month of Adar, had in it the yortzeit of Moses, of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, after all, passed away on the 7th of Adar. Haman thought, what's better than that for me? Auspicious for me, bad for the Jews. The day that Moses died. That's a terrific time to kill the Jews. So, what did he do? He chose that day, and the girl, the lottery that was chosen came out around that time. But he forgot one thing, that Moses not only was born on that day, not only died on that day, but he was also born on that day. So the 7th of Adar is an auspicious time for Jews. It recognizes the fact that it was his birthday, and that Haman did not figure on. So for that reason, by the way, the 7th of Adar is considered a day that the Chevra Kadishas, the burial societies of various cities, choose to have their annual dinner, or their annual fundraising dinner, or whatever it may be. They generally, Zayin Adar is the special day for the Chevra Kadisha, for the burial societies. And many communities that have large burial societies, that is, people who attend to the dead by washing the body and dressing the body and preparing the body for funeral, which are called the Chevra Kadisha, their special day is Zayin Adar. So therefore, the month of Adar was chosen by Haman as the month that the Jewish people were to die. And he didn't realize that it is also an auspicious day for Jews as well, because it was the day that Moses was born as well. And for this reason, the month of Adar is a very good month for the Jews, a very auspicious month. And as it happened, the salvation of the Jews in the story of Purim took place in the month of Adar, on the 13th and 14th of the month of Adar. So Adar is a very special day for Jews. It's a very happy day. Mishenichnas Adar, marbim b'simcha. When Adar comes, happiness increases, our sages tell us. And it was during the month of Adar, actually, that our sages tell us, in the Talmud, the Gemara in Megillah explains that you can read the Megillah from the 11th of Adar straight through till the 14th, if you are in a unwalled city. If you are in a walled city, you read it on the 15th. But actually, any of those days are suitable for the reading of the Megillah. A walled city can read it anywhere between the 11th and the 15th. An unwalled city, a city that did not have a wall during the times of Joshua, can read it from the 11th to the 14th only, any of those days. We have taken upon ourselves that we read the Megillah on the 14th, if you are living in most unwalled cities, which were unwalled at that time. The only walled city from the time of Joshua that we know of is the city of Jerusalem. And therefore in Yerushalayim, it's really the only city in the world that they read the Megillah on the 15th of Adar. Some read it in the city of Tiberias, because those of you who have been there, you know there's a wall there, an ancient wall. And some say the wall it started from the times of Joshua. But since it's questionable, they read it in Tiberia usually on the 14th and the 15th as well, just to be safe. But most of the world, we read it on the 14th. It's interesting, though, according to our sages, the entire month of Adar is kosher to hear the Megillah. Even though it's ideal to read it on the 14th, and you can read it from the 11th, but actually the entire month of Adar is still a month that the Megillah could be read, because the month of Adar is an auspicious time. It's a very good time. And therefore, why is it? Because of Zayin Adar, because of the 7th of Adar. So the whole connection of Purim is related to the idea of Zayin Adar, of the 7th of Adar. And therefore, Adar is commemorated as the month of Moshe's birth. And that's what makes it really auspicious, even before the holiday of Purim came along. And therefore, the month of Adar is celebrated not just because of Purim, but because of Moshe Rabbeinu as well. And it's interesting that of all the holidays, our sages tell us that the only holiday that will continue to exist in its totality when Mashiach comes is Purim. The only holiday. The Rambam Maimonides says that when Mashiach comes, all the other holidays will cease to exist, or their power, their importance will completely go down, except for the holiday of Purim. Why is that? Why is Purim so special, so unique? In fact, Yom Kippur, the great holiday of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is called Yom Kippurim, a day like Purim. How is Yom Kippur like Purim? Seems quite different than Purim, obviously, because on Yom Kippur, we feast, we eat a big meal, and then we fast. On Purim, we fast, the fast of Esther, and then we feast. We have a big meal on Purim. On Yom Kippur, we atone for our sins. It's a day of atonement. And Purim is a day also of atoning. Why did the Jewish people, why did they almost die? Because of the sins of partaking of Achashverosh's festive meal and celebrating their own destruction. But on Purim, the Jewish people did teshuvah, they did repentance in a major way, and they were saved from the evil decree of Haman and Achashverosh. So it's also a day of atonement and forgiveness. On Yom Kippur was actually the second time that Moshe received the tablets on Mount Sinai. We know that the first time, on Shavuos, the Jewish people were sinning with the sin of the golden calf, and Moshe broke the tablets, and then, after a period of atonement, he went back up to Mount Sinai and received the second luchos, the second tablets, on Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur was a day that the Jewish people received the Torah again. And on Purim, they also received the Torah. Kimu v'kiblu ha'Yehudim masha kiblu kfar. The Jewish people, they accepted upon themselves to fulfill the mitzvahs of the Torah, what they already accepted earlier, but this time they accepted it out of love. And certainly on Yom Kippur also, the first Yom Kippur when Moshe got the tablets the second time, the Jewish people also received the Torah not because of sinfulness, but because of happiness. They were happy to get it. But thousands of years later, on Purim, they accepted the Torah out of love, not out of fear. The first time, God put the mountain over them and threatened to crash it down on them if they did not accept the Torah. On Purim, they accepted it out of love and joy and happiness. So we see that Purim is connected with the receiving of the Torah, just like Yom Kippur is. Now, why is it that Purim is so special, so auspicious, that when Mashiach comes, it will remain, it'll be strong? And the Rabbi explains that Purim is special because when Mashiach comes, he will see that all the Jewish people are fulfilling all the holidays. The holidays that we fulfilled were holidays that happened in a miraculous way. On Sukkot, we were protected from the elements by the clouds of glory and the Amud Ha'esh, the pillar of fire, that protected us and gave us complete eyesight and good health and all kinds of things like that. On Pesach, we were saved from the wicked Egyptians. So, and every holiday, we were particularly saved from something or other. And it was a miracle that happened. And these holidays, by and large, took place within the miraculous covenant of godliness, which is a very amazing thing. Purim, on the other hand, is the only holiday that really took place in Gullus, in exile. And it's a holiday of Gullus. It's a holiday of exile. The Jewish people were in Babylon during this time. They were living comfortably in Babylonian exile, and there were no miracles. There was no open revelation of godliness. There were no 10 plagues that struck our enemies during that time like that happened in Egypt. In Purim, it was just a regular holiday. It was the events of Purim were within nature. And it seemed in Purim that God was somewhat hidden. In fact, the Megillah of Esther, the book of Esther, is the only book of the Bible that God's name is not mentioned even once. Not even once. The name Esther comes from the word haster. Aster, haster, espanei, I will certainly hide my face from you. God says that God is hidden from the Jewish people because of their sins. So when this happens, when we see that godliness is not revealed, it seems that hope has been lost, that times of the Holocaust or pogroms or times of anti-Semitism or wars, we describe this as a time of Hester Panim. God hides his face from the Jewish people. And during this time, God hid his face from the Jewish people. It seemed like God wasn't around. And people were looking, where's God? So God's name was not even mentioned once in the Megillah. Obviously, when it mentions the king, Hamelech, there are many cases it's a reference to God, who is the Melech Malchei HaMelachim, the King of Kings. But God's name per se, either Elohim or Yud-Kei Vev-Kei, Havaya, is not mentioned even once in the Megillah. So what happened in the story of Esther was that the Jewish people came to God. They recognized God from amidst the exile, from amidst the darkness. That's why it says that the king suddenly awoke from his sleep. This was the sleep of the slumber, when we say that God neither slumbers nor sleeps, but when God hides, this is considered like a time, a period of sleep, of deep sleep from the world. So when God came back and revealed himself and became actively again involved in the events of Purim, that's when the miracles happen. That's when the salvation of the Jewish people happened, and that is what happens today. We look around today, we don't see that God split the Pacific Ocean or Lake Ontario or even the Dead Sea. God doesn't do miracles like that. We don't have any water turning to blood or any frogs and hail and lice flying from the sky. We don't see all these incredible miracles that are happening today. But we believe in God nevertheless. The Jewish people are called maminim, believers. Not just believers, but b'nei maminim also, the children of believers. That belief in God is a fundamental part of being a Jew. Every Jew believes in God. There's an expression, there's no atheist in a foxhole. That is certainly appropriate for Jews, especially. When it comes to Jews, ultimately, we all believe, every one of us. When the Jewish people were marching into the gas chambers, not just the believers, but even the totally assimilated Jews had the Shema Yisrael on their lips. They said the words, Ani Mamin Be'emunah Shalema, I believe with perfect faith, B'vias HaMashiach, in the coming of the Messiah. We definitely all believed in that, and we continue to believe in that. Even though God is hidden, even though we don't see God around, obviously, but we all believe in God, and we all trust in God, that God is there for us and will always be for us. And that is really the essential message of Purim, isn't it? Purim means that within the hiddenness, the darkness, we find the light. The light is revealed from the darkness. And the light that is revealed is a very great light. It's a miraculous light. So for this reason, our sages tell us Purim will still be around after Mashiach comes, because it testifies to the fact that the Jewish people believed in God and followed God in spite of the fact that they really couldn't see him. And the fact that in spite of the fact that there really were not open, revealed miracles as we saw in the past. But is that really true? Is it true that we don't see open, revealed miracles? Obviously we do. We see miracles that happen every single day. Just waking up in the morning is a tremendous miracle. When a person is given a death sentence, God forbid, due to an illness, and they last much longer than the doctors ever expected them to last, it's a tremendous miracle from God. When a baby is born, it's a tremendous miracle, an unbelievable miracle. The Rebbe taught us very often to treasure those miracles and to see those miracles. And how do we do that? How do we see miracles? How can I see God and God's hand in everything in my life? How can I see that? Well, there's a way to do that. And the answer is put on your glasses. I don't mean your physical glasses. I mean your Torah glasses. We all need to put on Torah glasses. What are Torah glasses? How are they any different than my glasses? The answer is Torah glasses, just like with regular glasses, if you take them off, you see blurred images. You put them on, everything is clearer. You see things much in a more clear way. Similarly, we look at the world and we see a blurred image. We don't see things clearly. But when we put on Torah glasses, when we see the world through the medium of the Torah and the mitzvahs of the Torah, everything all of a sudden becomes much clearer and sharper, the image. And we can even see things that we never could see before. Remarkable things. And we indeed are able to see God's hand in every part of life. We're able to see that. And it's remarkable how we can see that and perceive that. I was listening recently to a video of Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Jacobson, and he was talking about what happens to us when we die. And he referred to this as when death is like being unplugged. Just like a refrigerator does all kinds of amazing things, keeps your food cold and everything because it's plugged into the wall. It's plugged into a source of energy. But when you unplug it, just simply unplug it from the wall, everything stops. The cold stops. The food becomes spoiled. And it's not like it was before. It's the same refrigerator. All the components are exactly the same as before. But there's one thing missing, and that is the electricity. The electricity is not there anymore. And the same is true of life in general. There is an electricity in life, and that electricity is godliness. Godliness. Inside of us, we have a soul. We have a body, which is simply a physical body. It's made out of dirt and basic components of the physical world, water, but it doesn't have any life to it. The only time it has life is if God puts a soul into the body. And that soul is the electricity of life. So when the electricity is there in the body comes back to life. Sort of interesting that when a person has a heart attack, sometimes what they do is they jumpstart his heart. Like you do a car. When a car dies, they jumpstart it with electricity. They take pads, like a defibrillator, and they give it a jolt. And that jolt gets the heart starting again. And in the sense, that jolt of electricity puts life back into the body of that person. So that person now has life once again. It's amazing how it works. A body is simply a body. It's a piece of physical matter. But when electricity is put into there, or when godliness is put into there, a soul is put into there, all of a sudden a miracle happens. And life, it becomes alive again. It's an amazing thing. Perhaps the defibrillator, the idea of the defibrillator is similar to the idea of God putting a soul into a body. Very similar analogy. So during this time of Purim, this is a time that godliness seemed to have been away, and that the world was functioning on a very physical plane alone, and God did not seem to be around anywhere. God seemed to be hidden. And all of a sudden, through teshuvah, through good deeds, the Jewish people were able to awaken God's mercy once again and bring life back into their people, and to correct this terrible injustice of Haman and annul his decree. How did it happen? By a defibrillator, in a sense, by God infusing back that divine electricity back into the world, into the Jewish people, and as a result of it, the Jewish people came alive, literally came alive again. And it's a remarkable thing how it happened. It's an amazing thing. And it's related to the birth of Moshe. Before Moshe was born, the Jewish people were in a terrible, terrible state of depression. It seemed that everything was lost. Our sages tell us that the Jewish people were at the 49th level of spiritual impurity. 49 levels. There are only 50 levels to begin with. They were at the 49th. They were about to expire. That they were about to die as a nation, both physically and spiritually. And it was because Moshe came and he was able to annul that decree and take them out of Egypt just at the last moment before that 50th level came about. In fact, that's why we observe 49 days or 50 days between Passover and Shavuos. We count the Omer. Soon, when Pesach comes, we're going to start counting the Omer, the days between Pesach, the second day of Pesach, and Shavuos. It's actually 49 days, and then the 50th day is Shavuos, because it represents the 50 days that the Jewish people were in the desert until they got the Torah, but it also represents the Mem Tes Shari Tuma, the 49 gates of spiritual impurity that exist. And if we allow ourselves to get to that point, we're in very bad shape. But we have that last opportunity, that last chance to save ourselves. And that's what happened on Purim. The Jewish people were able to save themselves at the last minute, just before it ended. It's interesting, Purim takes place exactly 1 month to the day before Passover. 1 month to the day before Passover. And certainly, it's an amazing thing. So the idea is that allowing ourselves to steep deeper and deeper and deeper into ritual impurity and to cause this to happen can be destructive and disastrous to us. But Moshe arises, and in every generation there's a Moshe Rabbeinu. Bechol dor vador, in every generation, his pashtusa de Moshe. There is a spreading out of the influence of Moshe in every single generation. And Moshe comes along in our generation. Who Moshe is, I don't quite know. Some say it's the Rabbi, maybe Rabbi Kanevsky, who knows what it could be. One of the Lamed Vavniks, one of the 36 hidden tzaddikim. In any case, there is a Moshe in our generation. And the Moshe in our generation is also not only externally, but also internally. There's a Moshe inside of us as well. every single one of us has a Moshe inside of us who is connected to God very intimately. And this Moshe inside of us is our Yetzer Tov, our good inclination, that leads us the way, to directs us in the right path, to show us how to improve ourselves, how to come closer to God. And that Moshe is the one that brings us back, ultimately, when things look very, very dire, when things look terrible. It is Moshe who brings us back and causes that amazing reawakening. And isn't it amazing that it usually happens just at the last minute? An amazing thing, just at the last minute. I'm reminded of the Jewish people in the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union. 70 years of Soviet communism. Interestingly, the number 70 is an auspicious number. Kol Shivin Chavivin. All 70s are auspicious. They're good luck. The number 70. So it was 70 years that the Jews were in communist Russia, and it looked very, very bad. By that time, Jewish people were not being very Jewish. They were assimilating, becoming communists, having Christmas trees in their houses, not observing bris milah even, no bar mitzvahs, nothing Jewish, and the synagogues were empty and closed. And just at the last minute, it happened. Miraculously, for no reason, the Iron Curtain fell, and communism was destroyed. And the entire eastern part of Europe under the communist regime was destroyed. And it was a revolution that took place without a bullet being fired. An amazing, amazing miracle that took place, that most of us who were alive at that time heard and saw with our own eyes. An amazing thing. And it happened just at the last minute, just before it was all over. The Rabbi foresaw it. He told his followers to prepare for it, that we're going to need housing for these people, we're going to need jobs for these people, and get ready for them to come. When Gorbachev came to Israel years later, after he had stepped down, he was met by Professor Yirmiyahu Branover, a noted physicist at Ben Gurion University, a former Russian Jew, and Professor Branover took Mr. Gorbachev around, and he said to him, he told him what the Rebbe said, that there's going to be the fall of communism, and we should get ready for it. And Branover asked him, did you know that it was going to happen? And Gorbachev said, I had no idea it was going to happen. It just happened. I don't know why it happened. I don't know how it happened. It just happened. When he came into power, he had no plans of destroying communism. None whatsoever. He was an apparatchik. He was a member of the Soviet bureaucracy. And that's how he became the prime minister and president of Russia. He had no idea what was going to happen. What happened? What happened was God caused it to happen. And when did God cause it to happen? At the end of 70 years. The Russian Revolution took place, I believe, in 1917. And it was around that time, 1980s, the late 1980s, that it fell. First, glasnost, openness, and then perestroika, where communism completely was destroyed a few years later, and the rest is history. After 70 years, amazing. The number 70 came about in a very, very special way. So miracles happen all the time, and it's an amazing thing when these things happen. That's what Purim is really all about. Purim is about celebrating miracles, and for us to bring in those miracles ourselves, not through expecting God to split a sea or anything like that, but for us to create those miracles ourselves. You know, the Rebbe became Rebbe in 1951, after 1 year after his father-in-law had passed away. And he was very reluctant to be Rebbe. He didn't want to accept the leadership of the Chabad movement because he knew that the Hasidic movement had a history of great spiritual leaders, which we called tzaddikim, or rebbes, rebbeim. And in most of these cases, these tzaddikim were miracle workers. A person didn't need to do anything. They would come to a tzaddik, they needed help, whether it was in health or parnasa, making a livelihood, or they didn't have children. They would come to the tzaddik, they would put some money on the table, and the Rebbe gave a bracha, and they went home very happy and rejoicing. Everything was great. It was all over, finished. The Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, this new Rebbe, was sort of a different kind of Rebbe. He wasn't into this stuff. He said, listen, I will only become Rebbe under one circumstance. And that one circumstance is that you come to me for a bracha, you need to make that bracha happen. I'm not going to make that bracha happen without you doing something about it through your effort. You need to do something about it, and then the bracha will work. If you're not prepared to do it, don't come to me. I'm not interested in taking any shortcuts. And that is how the Rebbe's philosophy went all those years. We needed to make the effort. If we were not prepared to make the effort, the Rebbe wasn't prepared to make the effort either. It all had to do with us. And that's what happened on Purim. On Purim, the Jewish people made the effort by doing teshuvah, by repenting for what they did. They fasted, they davened, they brought children together, thousands of children together in public for prayer. And then perhaps the ultimate effort when Esther came before the king Achashverosh without being summoned, which was a potential death sentence. If the king did not receive you, it was a death sentence. Mordechai said to her, Esther, my dear, if you don't go, then it's lost. We need you to go. You have to do it. So she took up all her courage, all her effort, and she went and saw the king without being summoned. And of course we know the king welcomed her, was happy to do anything she wanted. She ultimately revealed that she was really a Jew, something that he didn't know beforehand. And it was an amazing thing, and with this expression, measure for measure. Haman and his sons were hung on the same gallows that they erected themselves for Mordechai and the Jewish people. And they were hung on those same gallows. And we see over and over in history that there is measure for measure, midah keneged midah, that people, the wicked, are punished according to the sins that they did, and the good are rewarded for the good that they did as well. God keeps a close ledger of all the things we do in this world, and we are rewarded for all the good things that we do. And it's not a miracle that it happens. It happens because we make it happen. We make it happen when we expend the effort, even to a tiny little amount of space. God expands it tremendously and opens up the portal of blessings for all of us that happen. You know, that it's an incredible thing. Many miracles happen during the month of Adar, during the holiday of Purim. Amazing things happen. The Ayatollahs came to power in the month of Adar around Purim time, but at the same time, the Iraqi wars, the wars in the Middle East, Desert Storm, and all of these various wars also took place during around the time of the holiday of Purim as well. It happened in the Middle East. The Purim celebrates the idea of the Persians, the Persian Empire, which was in the power at that time. So we see that just the Ayatollahs took power in April of, I think it was 1975, something like that, around Purim time. So it was that God willing, the Ayatollahs will fall as well during the time of Purim coming up as well. Certainly when Mashiach comes, we will see that all of the wickedness that takes place in Persia, which is Iran now, will go down and will be destroyed, probably without a bullet being fired, just like it happened in Russia. And it will probably, again, here Rabbi Leider is making a prediction, will happen, God willing, on Purim. So you never know. It's an amazing thing. Purim represents the destruction of the Persian Empire. And right now, Iran, present-day Persia, is experiencing tremendous hardships economically and revolting by their own people. And the Ayatollahs, the leaders, have never been suffering more in terms of popularity than they are today. And I would not be surprised if, God willing, this Purim should be the last Purim that they are in power. And we will see that the Iranian people, who are a very good people, they're a pious people, they're good people. Certainly the presidents of the United States have pointed that out. And the Prime Minister of Israel have all pointed that out as well. That the Persian people are good people. It's just that their leadership is very bad. And God willing, we will see miracles happen through our prayers, through our davening, through our studying of Torah, through our observance of the mitzvahs of Purim. We will see that miracles upon miracles will happen. So I want to wish you all a very happy Purim, a Freilichen Purim, and a happy Adar, and we'll see you next week.